Batman Arkham Shadow adds so much new lore to the Batman Arkhamverse that it's kind of insane, whether it be returning characters who play significant roles, Arkham Shadow's major story connection to Batman Arkham Origins and Arkham Origins Blackgate, or even the beginnings of certain Arkhamverse characters that we saw in Rocksteady's trilogy but were never really given much of a backstory, at least until now. There is so much to talk about. So for this video, I wanted to highlight 10 of these different lore additions and story details that are definitely more on the obscure side. Real quick, I just want to say that this video does contain some heavy spoilers for Batman Arkham Shadow. This is your one and only warning, so with that out of the way, let's get started with number 1, the Pigsty's Hidden Details. When you first meet up with Gordon at the Bat Signal, you walk with him as he guides you inside of the GCPD room, mentioning that the rats have given it a name: the Pigsty. You then have a 2-minute conversation with Harvey and Gordon about the Rat King, leave, and never return here throughout the main campaign. It doesn't really feel like a substantial place. However, if you look around the room instead of just walking out as you're guided to, you can actually find a lot of interesting details. For starters, on this whiteboard you'll notice a list of persons of interest in the top left corner with Penguin, Mr. Freeze, Calendar Man, Killer Croc, Sionis aka Black Mask, Joker, and Falcone all listed. Penguin's whereabouts seem to be unknown, there's nothing listed next to his name, but Freeze, Calendar Man, and Croc are all said to be in DEO custody. Now the DEO in the DC universe, otherwise known as the Department of Extranormal Operations, is a government agency that specializes in and monitors metahuman activities. This isn't the first time we've seen them in the Arkhamverse though, because in Arkham Origins Blackgate, Catwoman steals classified data from a DEO building, they send a squad to hunt her down, and you as Batman have to fight them all off. So yeah, really interesting to see that Croc, Calendar Man, and Mr. Freeze are all in their possession. Now as for the others, Joker, Black Mask, and Falcone are all said to be locked up within Blackgate Prison, which we'll talk about in a different part of this video because yes, you can actually find all of those guys inside of Blackgate when you go there. Another interesting thing in this room is a picture of Jim Gordon and his family, noticeably including his son, James Gordon Jr. Now if you don't know, James Gordon Jr. is a complete and total psychopath who kills people with no remorse whatsoever. You can even find wanted posters of him in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, so it's definitely interesting to see him this many years beforehand looking so innocent in a family picture like this. And finally, the last thing I want to mention in this room is Batman's identity. On the opposite side of the room, you can find a board where it's clear that the police are trying to deduce who's the man under Batman's mask, but they don't appear to be very close considering that their suspects are Bigfoot, an alien, Santa, or Dracula. With that said, in the bottom right hand corner, one of their suspects is none other than Bruce Wayne. The police only think there's a 0.2% chance that Bruce is Batman, but nevertheless, it would appear that they're catching on. Number 2. Dick Grayson's unique origin in the Arkhamverse timeline. When you're making your way through Monarch Theater looking for Shrike, you eventually interrogate a thug. He tells you Shrike's in the projection room, and when you make it up there, a different rat tells you that Shrike has already left, right? Well, Batman then proceeds to absolutely beat the life out of this guy while interrogating him, and even though he puts up a decent fight, Batman gets the info he needs and body slams the poor guy out of the building and into the ground, brutally. I'm sure you're wondering though, how does this scene tie into Dick Grayson, Arkham Batman's first Robin, in any way whatsoever? Well, this rat that Batman's interrogating is Dick Grayson. Not too long prior to this, you can overhear a thug dialogue where they say,
"Come on, we're already late."
Yeah, Shrike and his water boy just left.
Hey, Shrike says that kid's been a little brother to him since before Blackgate.
Well, gotta go the movement somehow.
Go easy on him. He's a kid who looks up to Shrike.
Little brothers, fresh recruits. We're all family to the Rat King.
In the comics, Shrike and Grayson do have an early history together where they usually share a friendship and see each other as allies. It doesn't remain that way, Shrike ends up becoming a Nightwing villain and the two turn into enemies, but specifically during this point in the Arkhamverse timeline, it would make perfect sense that this kid he's referring to is Grayson. Well, obviously, we end up encountering the kid in person a little while later, and not only is he dual-wielding 2 blunt objects like Nightwing's Eskrima sticks, but he's also in the exact same pose as Nightwing Nightwing is in Arkham Knight's character bio. That is definitely not a coincidence. You can also see that he's wearing a Haley's Circus jacket, the same circus that the Flying Graysons performed for. And then, almost as if it's supposed to be a big reveal, the hood comes off, revealing a hairstyle identical to that of Grayson's. So we pretty much know for a fact that this is Dick Grayson, which gives us a pretty good insight into his character's beginnings within the Arkhamverse. In Arkham Origins, it was possible to find posters around Gotham advertising the Flying Graysons coming soon, meaning they were still around. Well, in Arkham Shadow, you can find a bunch of articles that mention a trapeze tragedy, implying that Grayson's parents are now dead, which is what probably led him down the path of becoming a criminal and a rat, right? This scene isn't the last of Grayson though, because in the end credits, there's actually one last dialogue between Bruce and Leslie.
Well, Bruce, the check cleared. Very generous and very necessary. We'll build back one youth center at a time, until Gotham has a support network as robust as when you and Harvey were growing up. Also, I found that wayward rat you were asking about. Former rat. It wasn't hard to find. He comes to see me for counseling from time to time. He's still at the Beacon, for now. You should visit him.
They are 100% referring to Dick Grayson here, the former rat, which means he's on his way to becoming Robin very soon within the Arkhamverse. I honestly think this is really cool having Grayson tie into the whole Rat King stuff and having his first interaction with Bruce being Batman just beating the life out of him, as well as getting to see the beginning of his redemption arc during the end credits. It's definitely unique, but I kinda like it, especially because they didn't really highlight it as some big moment with a key character, and was something you could have easily missed if you weren't paying close attention. Number 3. Irving matches Malone. A major part of this game involves Batman going undercover as an inmate inside of Blackgate Prison because he believes that's where the Rat King is hiding. Bruce uses a skin suit, puts on an accent, and gives himself a new name to get away with this. Irving Malone, with his nickname around the prison being Matches because he set the bat signal on fire to get into Blackgate to begin with. Well, Batman using a fake persona to infiltrate the criminal underworld isn't just a new concept within the Arkhamverse, no. It was actually hinted way back in Arkham Origins that Bruce had done this before. Listen to this dialogue.
They're going after the bat.
A bat? What, you serious? I thought he was like a urban Mick.
Oh, he's real enough. Just ask Mickey.
Mickey?
You know, Lefty.
Lefty? Oh, Lefty.
Lefty Knox is actually a fake name used by Batman, who you can clearly see from this dialogue is pretty popular amongst the criminals. Alternatively, Matches Malone, the name we see Batman use in Arkham Shadow, is just another identity that Bruce sometimes uses to go undercover in the comics as well. So yeah, it seems like Arkham Batman, at least in his early years, went undercover a lot to get himself inside of the criminal underworld, using multiple different identities too. Number 4. The Joker escaped his cell. While you're playing as Matches Malone, you have to fight Bolton, the head of Tiger, in a boss fight to save Falcone's life, and once you defeat him, you of course get locked up in solitary. Funnily enough, your cellmate right next door is none other than Joker, who is the only one who can see right through Batman's fake identity.
Two pizza! Huh? Well, look who's finally awake.
The hell are you talking about? You some kind of joker?
Hardly knew her. Nothing like an old friend to make the joint feel less solitary.
Old friend? You got the wrong guy. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd remember meeting a freak like you.
Tut tut, Patsy Boo. The Eastern voice might fool the rest of these dimwits, but me? Well, you and I have something special.
What do you want?
There is a lot of dialogue between Batman and Joker here, which is really cool, but I think my favorite part is if you bring up Harleen. Listen to this.
What do you know about Dr. Quinzel?
Let's see, Dr. Quinzel. Oh, the blondie! Is she still working here? Well, if you ask me, she could really use a career change. I don't suppose you know anyone who's hiring. Oh, maybe she could be your little sidekick.
I work alone.
Oh, come on! The Adventures of Batsy and Dr. Ditz. It'll play great with the tweens.
No.
Fine. If you're too uptight to give the girl a chance. Well, one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Now, once you're finally let out of solitary after multiple days, you can see that Joker's cell isn't specifically labeled as Joker, but we know it's him locked up in there and not just some hallucination or something because his specific patient number from Arkham Origins Blackgate is on the cell, which is a really cool callback. Anyways, after leaving solitary, you eventually have to come back here a day later in the main story. What's interesting about this though is that unlike yesterday, Joker's cell is now opened up, and upon exploring the whole cell, you can find his graffiti and markings all over the walls, hand-drawn maps to navigate Blackgate presumably, as well as a note outside of the room from none other than Harleen Quinzel that says he was transferred to a different wing at Blackgate. So may have been moved, but nothing implies the Joker escaped, right? Wrong. In Harleen's office, you can actually find a resignation letter written by her, meaning she was getting ready to quit her job at Blackgate. Also in her office, you can find a calendar that not only has Joker's picture taped to it, but there are also 3 specific days highlighted in a Joker-like green color. The last day is the same day Joker is missing from his cell. So yeah, it seems all but confirmed that Harleen was moving on with her life and fully transitioning into the psychopath Harley Quinn version of herself instead, which we had seen hints of throughout the game, so it's not all that surprising.
Ooh, you should hear the things they call me. Mrs. Stew, Pumpkin Pie, Harley Quinn. Maybe I should wear a mask like you. Then everyone would know who I am.
I don't recommend it.
But of course, before she could leave Blackgate, she needed Joker with her as well, so disguising it as just a prisoner transfer, it seems highly likely that she helped break him out of Blackgate prison one more time. Number 5. Batman's mysterious stalker. There are multiple times throughout Arkham Shadow where you'll briefly be able to spot a black figure with a silhouette that looks like a cape watching you from the shadows. I myself have noticed this stalking figure twice. Once when you're first being taken into Blackgate as a prisoner, where you can see this figure watching you from on top of a gargoyle before disappearing. The second time I've noticed is when you're making your way through Death Row. As soon as you enter into this area, the door on the opposite side of the room immediately starts closing, almost as if someone activated it, but when you walk over, no one's there. To add to this mysterious Batman-like stalker, there are multiple reports of a second Batman you can read about in newspapers. The stories seem very inconsistent with each other, but I specifically want to highlight one where it claims that this Batman 2.0 is just a kid who's short and fakes a deep voice. He's not just any kid though, because apparently the criminal shot him point blank and the bullet went right through him. So who could this second Batman be, and why is he stalking you throughout Arkham Shadow? Well, one of the quotes from the criminal reads, "He's one of those shapeshifters from Mars," obviously referencing Martian Manhunter, which would make sense given his shapeshifting abilities. With that said, I don't think it'd be him here though. Pretending to be a kid that's pretending to be Batman just seems kinda weird. Rather, the only other person I can think of that idolizes Batman, is a kid and clearly has superpowers, is Batmite, a 5th-dimensional being that a lot of you probably recognize. As you can see from the pictures taken though, he doesn't really look like Batmite, or a kid at all for that matter. He looks like a full-grown, muscular adult, maybe someone like Azrael or Talon. Like I said, the articles are inconsistent, so either Batmite, Azrael, or Talon is the one stalking you throughout the game? Well, no. I personally think the stalking figure is completely separate to these newspaper articles and is just a hallucination of Bruce's where he's seeing Nightmare Batman, a visual representation of the evil inside of him and his desire to kill. This was a big part of Batman's character development throughout the game and the focus of Crane's boss fight as well, so I feel like it makes sense that this figure sort of watching you over your shoulder could be some sort of setup to that. Like I said though, that's my own speculation and we really don't have a definitive answer, so who do you think is stalking Bruce, and who do you think this second Batman in the newspaper articles is? Number 6. Tiger is in control of Blackgate. Now in Arkham Shadow, we're shown that it's not the regular staff running Blackgate prison, but rather Tiger guards. I'm sure you're wondering why Tiger is even around at this point, considering that they were only really active during Arkham City, which takes place about a decade after Arkham Shadow timeline-wise, right? Well, we actually already know that Tiger was active during this time frame as well. In Arkham Origins, you can find a boat with the tiger symbol on it, showing that they existed way back around when Arkham Origins takes place in the Arkhamverse, and this tiger boat is even shown to us in one of of Arkham Shadow's cutscenes. So we know they've existed, but how did they get possession of Blackgate? Well, there's actually some extra dialogue you can find in the library if you interact with these displays, one of which giving us some info on Tiger.
After years of staggering mismanagement, endless riots, and bleeding heart attempts at rehabilitation, control of Blackgate was finally handed over to a private contractor that knows what the animals inside these walls deserve. Tiger's security and its staff work hard to ensure that criminals stay where they belong, rather than on library exhibits nobody cares about.
So yeah, after all of the breakouts and prison escapes that were shown in the other prequel Arkham games, Tiger was able to take full control over Blackgate to try and stop these breakouts. Now looking at some individual characters, we can see that Officer Brandon from Arkham Origins and Officer Bowles from Arkham Asylum are both Tiger guards now, which is kinda crazy, especially given the fact that we were literally just talking about a theory on the channel that Bowles was a Tiger guard, which is now officially canon. But who I really want to focus on is Bolton, the man in charge of Tiger. Now, Bolton wasn't always going to be the head of Tiger, no. In Arkham Origins, there is a very obscure Easter egg you can find in Blackgate, that being a Lyle Bolton interview folder for a job opening at the prison, Chief of Security. Keep in mind that Blackgate Prison was still being operated by regular guards and not Tiger at this point. Well, fast forward to 6 months later in Arkham Shadow, when exploring Bolton's office, we can see that he received a rejection letter for this very job opening following his first interview, instead giving it to another applicant. That's very interesting, and likely what led to Bolton taking the lead role at Tiger instead. So just to sort of fill in some gaps here, during the events of Arkham Origins, Blackgate was looking for a new chief of security for the prison. Bolton applied for this position because he firmly believed that punishment was the answer to Gotham's crime problems, not rehabilitation, and wanted to make a difference as chief of security, but was denied the job. Bolton, still determined to make a difference through his own harsh and brutal belief system, took on a lead role at Tiger, and once yet another prisoner takeover occurred at Blackgate during the events of that game, control of the prison was finally handed over to Tiger, a private security company that was more capable of preventing such breakouts and solving Blackgate's issues, with Lyle Bolton now in charge of the whole operation. Number 7. Familiar faces around Blackgate. While you're exploring the prison as Malone, you'll notice that there are a lot of returning Arkham characters for you to interact with. For starters, one of your fellow inmates in the same cell block as you is none other than Bronze Tiger. Yeah, the guy you fight in Arkham Origins Blackgate, he's here and you can have a lot of different conversations with him.
I just get the feeling you've been here before.
Not my first bid in Blackgate. I've seen a lot of people pass through here. Most of them deserve better than this. Others deserved a lot worse.
Next up, if you go to the infirmary early, you can actually get this dialogue over the radio about Ferris Boyle. You know, the guy who ends up being the big bad behind Arkham Origins Cold Heart DLC and tries to kill both Batman and Mr. Freeze.
Shockwaves through the stock market as many investors abandon their long-term investment philosophies by selling their shares of Gotham-based companies. Concerns about the impact of violent social unrest on productivity were captured by one investor who said that he could not risk his life savings on a business when, quote, some maniac in a mouse costume can just burn it down. Shares of Wayne Enterprises have taken the biggest hit, tumbling to a 3-year low. It didn't help that notoriously flaky CEO Bruce Wayne was absent from crucial meetings this week. Meanwhile, GothCorp continues to struggle in the wake of former CEO Ferris Boyle's manslaughter conviction in the death of Nora Freeze. Rumors of a potential buyout from Stag Enterprises might be good for the company, but shareholders should expect a significantly reduced return on their investment.
Definitely a cool nod, but once you head out into the yard, you can actually find Boyle in person where he's being threatened by some of the rats.
Look at this. Ferris Boyle. GothCorp's CEO is slumming it in Blackgate with the rest of us rats.
Boyle, huh? Let's pop him.
Get your hands off me, vermin.
Boyle isn't the only character here though, because you can find and talk with Ricky LeBlanc, aka Loose Lips, who's sitting at this table.
Look, I busted out of here when the Joker took over. Sooner or later there'll be another riot. When that happens, you'll need veteran leadership. I've done it all. Prison breaks, arms trading. Getting captured by Batman and thrown back in here? That kind of leadership? Hey, he was wearing some kind of super robot suit. I mean, if you even saw that thing, you'd sprinkle tinkle in your undies.
Something I want to point out is that in both Arkham Origins and its DLC, Loose Lips is clearly shown to be working with Penguin, right? Well now, just 3 months later, it appears that he's working for Falcone. You know, Penguin's rival that he was trying to push out of business in Arkham Origins by torturing Falcone's son Alberto. Really just goes to show how much guys like Loose Lips lack any sense of loyalty.
I'm angling to be Falcone's top man on the outside. I worked for the competition, so I understand it. Makes me indispensable.
I'll stop you right there, Ricky. You're gonna try to sell whatever you know about Falcone's business to the Penguin, or take another job with him and then rat him out to Falcone.
Yeah, Gotham's a competitive job market. You gotta make yourself stand out to as many employers as possible. You know this.
Now, one last returning character you can find, talk to, and even fight is Bird, Bane's lieutenant from Arkham Origins, who had a full side mission dedicated to him in that game.
A lot of Batman sightings around here. That got you worried?
Batman's the reason I'm here. He left me for Commissioner Gordon and his men last year. If I had the opportunity, I'd kill him.
Huh. And you won't have the opportunity?
Not yet. Not like I am now, a common prisoner. But when Bane frees me, that will change. And Batman will know my name.
I can't lie, as fun as it is to take down these criminals as Batman, it is so cool to finally see these guys' perspectives from the inside as a fellow prisoner after we locked them up here in previous games. Number 8. More familiar faces in Solitary. Like we were talking about earlier, Black Mask is one of the persons of interest that was allegedly thrown into Blackgate based on this whiteboard, right? But can you actually find him in the prison? Well, inside of Solitary, if you actually walk up to individual cells instead of just leaving, you'll notice a name tag on one of the doors that's labeled Sionis, immediately prompting you to bang on the cell door.
Knock knock.
Hey, Malone, right? Let's talk.
Alright, I'm listening.
Only a couple of days and you're already in with Falcone, huh? You work fast, kid. I respect that.
Black Mask. Say, didn't you used to be somebody?
You got guts, Malone. Don't make me cut him out and feed him to you. Look, I admit it. I lost everything. Joker and the Bat made sure of that. But here's the thing with rock bottom. The only way is up. Hell, with a smart guy like you, I could take it all back.
What, like a sidekick?
More like an associate. All you gotta do is find something sharp and carve that clown a second smile.
Nah. I work alone.
You'll regret this, Malone. The Sionis name is gonna mean something again real soon. Only you won't be around to see it.
You gotta love hearing Sionis again, but he's not the only familiar face locked up in Solitary. Right on the opposite side of the room, you can do the exact same thing. Bang on the cell door, and...
Hey, I want to talk for a second.
Hey, did I hear him call you Matches?
Why? Got a problem with that?
No problem, friend. In fact, I like it. Not a bad nickname for a fellow firebug.
Alleged?
What'd you allegedly torch?
That spotlight the cops used to call Batman.
Oh, buddy. A man after my own heart. Name's Garfield Limbs.
Yeah, I heard of you. You tried to blow up Pioneer's Bridge.
Would have been my masterpiece, if not for the Bat. A glorious, molten funeral pyre! Oh, could have watched it for hours.
Jeez, that what landed you in the hole? Yeah, that thing with the bridge. That how you wound up in Solitary?
Nah, I talked some of the new Tiger guys into letting me work the kitchen.
So long as I stayed away from the stove.
Smart move on their part.
That's what they thought. First chance I got, I shoved the cook's arm into the fryer. Skin's crackling, he's screaming. A real feast for the senses.
Jeez, Garfield, you're a hot mess.
So both Firefly and Black Mask have some very interesting dialogue with Matches Malone. So cool to see both of these guys return after the events of Arkham Origins. Number 9. Hints at the big reveal. No, not the Rat King. What I'm talking about is the other big reveal that is very much like the Clayface Joker reveal in Arkham City. So throughout the game, when you're playing as Matches Malone, you interact with an old man named Joe a lot. He seems to have a very troubled past, but he's portrayed as a character that is very regretful and trying extremely hard to redeem himself for his prior actions that put him inside of Blackgate in the first place.
Everything must go, huh?
To unload the rest of what I got up here.
He's Harleen's best patient, he's made tremendous progress, he's super welcoming and tries to look out for you even though you've only been there for a couple of days. You get the idea. Anyways, at the end of the game, it's revealed to us that this old man isn't just an average Joe, no.
The bastard that killed your parents, I found him. His name is Joe Chill. He was in Blackgate this whole time on different charges.
He's actually Joe Chill, the man who killed Bruce Wayne's parents. To not only know but actually see Bruce interact with the man who murdered his parents within Arkhamverse lore is crazy itself, not to mention how much this contributes to Arkham Batman's character development as he transitions into becoming the more mature Batman that we see in Rocksteady's trilogy. I think the best part about this reveal though is that it probably seems so out of left field for a first playthrough, but now that you know who Joe really is, playing through the game again, you'll notice there's a lot of small hints that give away his identity. For starters, when you're about to go deliver a package for Joe, he tells you this.
Give Bird this package in exchange for a bundle of cash, but don't be a hero.
Yeah, something very similar that he told 8-year-old Bruce Wayne after killing his parents in Arkham VR.
You see that, kid? That's what happens when you try to be a hero.
Now, that's not where it ends though, because also in this dialogue, Joe immediately goes on to say,
but don't be a hero. And don't resort to violence. Trust me, that's an alley you don't want to go down.
I'll do my best, Joe.
Yeah, alley is definitely a play on words here. Next up, when you're in the therapy session and Matches Malone starts opening up about his past, just watch Joe's reaction.
Tell us about your childhood.
My childhood. Alright. My parents were both murdered in front of me when I was a kid. I saw it, I couldn't stop it, I froze. And they never caught the guy who did it.
Oh my dear. I'm so sorry. I feel sick in my soul for you.
He can't even look at you. And finally, if you look at Joe's chest, you'll actually be able to notice the exact same tattoo that Joe Chill had in Arkham VR as well. I'm sure there's more left to be found that I completely missed, but I really love when stories do reveals like this. It makes replaying the game so much more fun. Number 10, the origin of Two-Face. If you're like me, you probably thought that the way Harvey Dent turns into Two-Face in the Arkhamverse was through Sal Maroni, but in Arkham Shadow, it's not Maroni that creates Two-Face.
No, just take it easy, guys.
Keep this guy.
It's Batman who does. Albeit indirectly. Now, like I said, when I first played through Arkham Shadow, I thought this scene broke Arkham continuity on a massive scale, but turns out, rather, it's left very broad, only saying it was caused by one of Falcone's men.
Look at your coin. It wants you to tell me about that day in the courtroom.
It was painful.
Elaborate.
I was naive. I thought I could make a difference. Falcone was going to go down for what he had done.
But he had other plans.
Look at my face! No one understands the beauty of fate's hand. I'm grateful to Falcone.
He gave me a clarity, a purity that few will know. Everything boils down to a simple choice. This way or that way. Good or bad.
Well, even though we know Bruce is obviously not one of Falcone's men, Matches Malone, Batman's fake persona that's the one on trial, was. He was working directly with Falcone for like the entire second half of the game, jumped into the ring to fight against Bolton and save Falcone when everybody else wouldn't, and was perceived to be one of Falcone's men by everybody throughout the prison.
You're Falcone's new muscle, aren't you?
Not only did Tiger and Blackgate prisoners believe Malone to be one of Falcone's men, but thanks to Vicky Vale's report, that info was all public knowledge.
This asshole thinks he's famous.
Breaking news.
You're gonna pay
District
for what
Attorney
you did.
Harvey Dent has
Guess
been
Falcone got
brutally
Dent in
attacked
the
at the
end.
Solomon Wayne courthouse. Here's what we know at this hour. It began at a routine competency hearing for an Irving Matches Malone, who unconfirmed reports suggest is an associate of Carmine Falcone. After Malone became violent under questioning by DA Dent, Blackgate psychiatrist Dr. Jonathan Crane approached him to administer a sedative. Malone resisted and grabbed the sedative from Dr. Crane. Then, without remorse, he attacked DA Dent from the stand. Dent was rushed to the emergency room. At this time, we have no updates on his condition.
So it makes sense that in the Arkhamverse, people believe it was somebody directly linked to Falcone who caused Harvey's transformation. So yes, Batman is indirectly the one who causes Harvey to turn into Two-Face. And while it does align perfectly with past Arkhamverse lore established in the other Batman Arkham games, it also puts a major twist on the story that nobody saw coming.